Hello and welcome to Literary Gladiators, the show where we discuss and debate literature in all of its forms. If it's written work, it's game. Let's meet the panel.
Lily.
I'm Kaila.
Kelsea.
And I'm Josh. Today we have someone new on the panel. Kaila, welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's
Welcome.
my pleasure, of course.
I'm excited to be here.
You are part of the Kelsea tree of individuals, of readers already. Any physical or intellectual talents you would like to share with us?
Is this Jeopardy?
It's an icebreaker.
She's very good at writing. She's a very good dystopian writer.
Thank you.
I enjoy writing myself, and I'd be interested in reading your dystopian writing.
Maybe one day you can.
Oh, absolutely. Alrighty. Today we're going over something that could be deemed as dystopian depending on who you are.
Lady Lazarus by Sylvia Plath.
Alrighty. Okay then, what's our topic point for today?
What do you feel Plath is trying to say about death in this poem and the ability to escape it time and time again?
You want to take this one, Lily?
Sure. Well, the poem breaks down as it's an extended conceit. She's comparing the doctors that have revived her each time she's attempted suicide to the doctors that worked in the concentration camps experimenting on the inmates during the Holocaust. She mentions Dr. Mengele in particular, yes.
I think that she mentioned her doctor? Or
yeah, Air Doctor.
Air Doctor Who. Okay.
Yeah.
But I think it's more about, she talks more about her suicide attempts and that the comparisons, but you also have to take into account reliability of the narrator.
Right.
And whether or not, then we've always argued about that, the fact that I feel that Sylvia Plath is not necessarily a reliable narrator. She is just a point of view.
Well, is it
an eccentric point of view?
Is it really fair to compare someone who's stopping you from killing yourself to a Nazi?
That's an issue that that's the issue that I have with her, is the fact that she makes these comparisons. She thinks her life is so bad, and is her life really as bad as these millions of Jewish people that were killed in the Holocaust?
But that's not the question that we should be asking here. The question is that, like, not is her life that bad, but why are we comparing, like, because people will compare, you know, a lump of sand to gold. Are we really saying, like, oh, is that lump of sand really gold? No, it's just, she's just using it as comparison because it's maybe a crash or like a rash comparison. It's kind of, you know, offensive to some. Doesn't mean that we have to be asking the question, is it, like, is her life as bad as that? She's using it as comparison because it's creative writing. It's a poem. That's what it's all for.
I agree. You could use other things too.
We could
You
also
could, but you don't because it's, you know, the author's choice to choose what they're going to use as a comparison.
and there's no question what she's trying to say. Like, it's obviously a very depressing
Yeah.
thing, the Holocaust. Like, you don't have to think about it for a second.
Yeah.
So that could be a reason as
she's
well.
comparing her, the most depressing thing in her life, to the most depressing thing she can think of.
Well, she's also saying that these doctors that are bringing her back to life don't even value her life. They're just exploiting her. She's a spectacle for them. The whole reference to the cake of soap, the wedding ring, the gold filling, you know, ash and ash you poke and stir, is after the Nazis had cremated bodies that were in the camps. They used to make the survivors pick through the ashes for valuables.
And then they would use the bodies as different items that they could sell. The fact that a paperweight, my face, a featureless fine Jew linen, which it says here, at least in this anthology, that they would use their skin as a portion of the lampshade that they would go on to sell.
Yep.
That's true.
Yes, I can see that being true. But
And then the whole idea of the spectacle, you know, what a million filaments the peanut crunching crowd shoves in to see them unwrap me hand and foot. Like, it's just a crowd around. It's almost like they're at the circus while they're bringing somebody who has attempted suicide back to life.
See, that's kind of what I got more out of it, was our human fascination with a subject such as death. We're so fascinated by people who can go so far as to try to commit suicide, or anybody who's died, really, but we're a lot less fascinated with them when they're actually living.
That's a good point.
That is indeed, especially when it's coming from the person that
Has attempted it.
Yeah, that has attempted it. And but the other question at hand is whether or not she really wants to die, which in this case it seems like she does, because to her, death is freedom.
Yeah, and she's also looking at the revival of her life as with great disdain. She's like, why do you keep doing this to me? And she's also using a lot of sarcasm in the poem to portray her disdainful feeling towards being brought back to life.
And it's not like this is the first time either, because the first attempt was around the time she was 10. And that's somebody who's truly estranged, that then continues to do it. I would think that in most circumstances, someone would be willing to look for help. It almost seems like she never wanted to live in the first place.
Maybe she didn't, but that's her prerogative.
Because another poem that you can connect this with is Daddy, because she mentions her first suicide attempt there as well, and how her father died around the time she was 8 because of gangrene in his foot. And then how she wanted to keep, how she has such disdain for him, but she still wants to join him. Right. So.
I did want to go back to a point that you made earlier about her being an unreliable narrator, and I'm wondering is it necessary for her to be a reliable narrator in poetry?
It's a point of view, but you also have to take into account whether or not the things that she says in her works is actually the way that it is. And because there are definitely going to be people that she talks about that are going to have their side of the story. And then you got to figure out which one is true.
Well,
and whether or not, and in many cases, the way that she speaks, it seems like it's an overreaction.
Well, I was just thinking that with any account that's being told from firsthand, like from somebody's own personal experience, same thing with memoirs and things of that sort, there's going to be a certain type of personal interpretation and, an unreliable element there. So is it really fair to call her out on that? To call her out on being unreliable when anybody speaking from a personal point of view is unreliable? Anybody could be deemed unreliable, but there are also, it's a mixed bag too, because even speaking with any one of you, there's probably somebody on here that may be more reliable than the other person. And I think that if it was the three of you and Sylvia Plath telling the same story, I think that I would take,
very different.
I think that I could trust each of you, especially Kelsea, a bit more than I would Sylvia Plath.
Okay, I see your point of view.
I think part of that, though, is just kind of the nature of depression. You have a very, not necessarily a one-track mind, but you have a very narrow way of thinking about yourself and how you fit into the world.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of that is portrayed in this
She had a different case of depression because there are a batch of people that want to be helped.
For sure.
She did not want to be helped.
Definitely.
Yeah. But it's also hard when you're depressed. Everything you do, every word you say, every thought you have is shrouded in that depression. So it's kind of hard to want to get help when that depression is shrouding you. So.
Not to mention that when you have such deep depression, everything everybody else says and does and is also shrouded in your perception of depression.
But another question, or another thing you have to take into perspective is the position of Ted Hughes and whether or not he has a side to the story. I think that he's been painted as being a monster.
Well,
especially
he came
on
much
that
later,
end of the
though.
film.
I told you that story, right, about the friend of mine that etched out Hughes from Sylvia Plath's grave.
Wasn't she one of 1,000 people that have tried doing that?
Yes.
But that's something.
It's a whole nother topic.
Granted, I question why they have that at the end as well, but what is.
Yeah.
Already.
Okay. Something that had always struck me about this is it's a piece fundamentally about her lacking agency, right? She has no control over deciding when she dies, even though she wants to. And then it ends with a reference to the phoenix, which is very empowering and forceful.
I think that is quite a, out of the ash I rise with my red hair, and I eat men like air. Sounds like a way to end a poem.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's very interesting that such a depressing poem is ended on like such a strong, kind of a hopeful
Yeah.
note. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then it also kind of brings it a point of view, even though she has been revived and she hates that she has, like,
She may be a little grateful.
yeah, so maybe you're not so right about her. you
But the
know?
way that she's saying, telling her God, her Lucifer, to beware,
True.
that she's rising from the dead and she's out for vengeance to the people that help, like a Dr. Frankenstein.
It's,
in a way.
Could
it's
also
like these people, like, you think you've rescued me, you think I owe this to you, but maybe I can claim something out of it after all.
I think if you're looking at
Right.
it historically, though, it seemed like she got her way in the end
Right.
Yes.
She did.
Yeah.
with the help of an oven.
yeah.
Anybody have any other thoughts that they were not able to?
I wonder what the price is when she's referencing all the crowds that are ogling her, you know, coming. It's the theatrical comeback in broad day to the same place, the same face, the same brute amused shout, a miracle that knocks me out. There's a charge for the eyeing of my scars. There's a charge for the hearing of my heart. It really goes. Like, she's asserting her life in that moment, and yet she's almost like some doll on a table. Like, it can do these things, you know? And meanwhile, it's like, she's saying, you can look, but it'll cost you. I'll be this thing you can ogle, but at a price. And I wonder what that is. She never really makes that clear.
I also kind of interpreted that as there's a cost to her on it. Like when people are
Right.
ogling her and everything, it's contributing to her depression, and it's taking an emotional toll on
It
her.
just pushes her to attempt again.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's how I took the charge aspect.
No, I take that as well. But there is, if there's one thing that I would be interested to read from her, it is the bell jar,
I
because
started that. It's very good so far.
I'll have
I read that in high
because
school.
it is supposed to be semi-autobiographical, and perhaps I'll get an answer as to why, not necessarily why she is the way she is, but why she conveys herself the way that she does. Perhaps it'll give me a bit more of an understanding, even though she is not one of my favorite poets.
But that could be that topic could be saved for another episode, right?
Perhaps I
Indeed.
will.
The return to Sylvia Plath.
Yeah.
We tend to return to Sylvia Plath. We did it with Daddy. Daddy got a good amount
Always
of
gotta
views.
go back.
So
Did.
Sylvia Plath seems to be, it seems to drive people to our show.
I personally like Sylvia Plath.
So do I.
Like, I think there's some hidden meaning in it, despite
Most of
its
us do,
depressing tone.
except me. But then again, I've been a lone wolf before, and so have other people.
Gotta stand proud.
So, already, I will. The work that I referred to is the Norton anthology, the Anthology of American Literature, Volume E. Don't know if I will suggest her collection of poetry.
I do.
I was reading from the restored Ariel. It's one of her book lengths, and then they went to the manuscript and photocopied it so you can see her editing process at the back.
That's really cool.
Alrighty then. Be sure to join us next time for another episode of Literary Gladiators. For now, keep reading.